I don't need Japanese pictures here, for I am always telling myself that here I am in Japan. Van Gogh wrote this from Arles in 1888. As a Japanese artist, I had to see what he found in person. In this video, I will take you with me as I walk in his footsteps, and then I will show you today's Arles art scene, something he could never have imagined. But here's a big question. Did I actually find the Japan he was talking about? Hi, I'm Satomi, a Japanese artist based in London. I'm on my way to Arles from Pavilion, and I'm genuinely excited to see what Van Gogh saw here. In February 1888, at the age of 34, Van Gogh left Paris by night train and traveled south to this small town. Paris was hectic and expensive, and he longed for brighter colors, clearer light, and a calmer way of life. There are two main things he wanted to do in Arles. First, he dreamed of creating what he called a studio of the South, an artist community where painters could live and work together, away from the pressure of Paris. Second, he wanted to bring the colors and the clarity he admired in Japanese prints into his own painting. The light and the vivid tones of Arles made him believe that he could find his Japan of the South. And in his letters, he even wrote that he hopes to live here like a Japanese. Now, you've never heard of ukiyo-e. Let me quickly explain. They are Japanese woodblock prints from the 1860s, especially after the 1867 Paris Exposition. These prints spread through Europe and were sold in Paris markets. Impressionist and post-impressionist artists were fascinated by their bold outlines, flat areas of color, and unusual viewpoints. So here are a couple of his Japanese-inspired paintings. This one is adapted from a Hiroshige print, and this one is based on an image by Eisen. He wrote to his brother Theo, "All my work is based to some extent on Japanese art." But Van Gogh never actually visited Japan. His idea of Japan came from imagination and a few hundred woodblock prints. As soon as I arrived in Arles, I came straight here. This is where Van Gogh painted Café Terrace at night. That yellow is so vivid and intense. He came here for the light, to paint with the bold simplicity he admired in Japanese prints. But as a Japanese artist, I doubt those exact Japanese colors were ever here. As you might expect, the palette is Provençal, shaped by different light, climate, and the local pigments, so he transformed what he saw into his own language. About the colors in this Café Terrace at night, he wrote in a letter, "It often seems to me that the night is even more richly colored than the day, colored in the most intense violets, blues, and greens." When he painted this café, Van Gogh was productive but fragile. He was waiting for Paul Gauguin to join him, dreaming of a smaller artist commune. Gauguin arrived in October 1888, and for about 9 weeks, they lived and worked together in Van Gogh's home, the Yellow House. At first, it seems perfect, but their personalities clashed. Gauguin was self-assured, sometimes domineering, whereas Van Gogh was intensely sensitive and unchangeable. Conflict was almost inevitable. Now, you've probably heard this next part before. It's become one of the most famous stories in art history. On 23rd December, after a heated argument, Gauguin left for a hotel. Later that night, Vincent cut off part of his left ear. So, this is Espace Van Gogh, where Van Gogh was treated after the incident. In the first day, his condition was unstable. Doctors kept him under observation and for 2 or 3 days placed him in an isolation cell. Reports from that time say he had hallucinations and feared he was being poisoned. But as he recovered, this courtyard became a refuge. Spring flowers, irises, forget-me-nots, oleanders drew his eye. He painted the garden of the hospital and ward in the hospital, turning paint into color. When he was discharged in January, he tried to return to normal life. By late February, the neighbors had had enough. About 30 local residents signed a petition asking the mayor to have him committed, and the police closed the Yellow House. Vincent wrote on 19th March, "My house has been shut up by the police." That rejection changed everything. He knew he couldn't stay in Arles anymore. In May 1889, he voluntarily entered the asylum as Saint-Remy so he could recover safely and then keep painting. So, I wanted to see Saint-Remy for myself. I took a taxi, about a 30-minute drive. This place hit me even harder emotionally. I still think about it sometimes. When I got to the asylum, oh my goodness, I got goosebumps. It was strangely quiet, maybe just too quiet. That emptiness, the silence was almost frightening. Walking along the corridor, you will see glass cabinets of medical instruments and the nurses' uniforms. Quite unsettling. Life here followed a simple supervised routine. He was still struggling with hallucination and severe mood swings, but his doctor gave him a small room to paint in, and he kept working in that tiny space. What stayed with me was the next room. It's one of the places I'll never forget from my time in the south of France. It's a reconstruction of his bedroom. Seeing it was just overwhelming, knowing what he had been through. I couldn't help wondering how he felt here, looking out through that small window and painting through his darkest period. I hope you will have the chance to see it for yourself one day. I would love to hear your thoughts. But above all, this tiny space is where one of the world's most famous paintings was born, The Starry Night. You've probably seen it in a school book. Through The Starry Night, Van Gogh wanted to capture more than what he could see: nature's energy and movement, and a spiritual connection between earth and the sky. It wasn't about realistic representation. It's the emotion that the landscape stirred in him. So, I headed back to Arles, and then now let me show you today's art scene in Arles. The two places you shouldn't miss are LUMA Arles and Lee Ufan Arles. These places might represent what Van Gogh was trying to create. LUMA was built by Swiss collector Maya Hoffman. She invested around $150 million to create one of Europe's largest contemporary art complexes. Frank Gehry designed the tower, saying he wanted to evoke Van Gogh's The Starry Night. Here, contemporary artists explore with the same question Van Gogh had. How do you capture light? How do you make the ordinary transcendent? It's striking to see how strongly the town now revolves around art, largely thanks to his legacy. And then there's Lee Ufan Arles. Lee Ufan was one of my favorite artists. He's Korean-born, but moved to Japan and became the leading theorist of Monoha, Japan's first international recognized contemporary art movement. This museum was designed by Tadao Ando. I have such vivid memories of Lee Ufan's museum on Naoshima Island in Japan, also designed by Ando. Experiencing their collaboration again, this time in France, was incredibly moving. Perhaps Lee Ufan was looking for something Van Gogh wanted, but from the opposite direction. Not vibrant expression, but quiet contemplation. The negative space that speaks to something deep in Japanese aesthetics. Decades later, what Van Gogh wanted to create in the 1880s is here. his vision of an artist community became reality. So, before getting into my conclusion, I couldn't show everything I show in Arles in this video, but I created a curated guide introducing the places that inspired me during my 2 months in the south of France. If you are an art lover, I'm sure you will enjoy it. It also includes backstories of the places I visited. You can find the link below, and your support always helps me keep creating, so thank you so much. My conclusion to the question, did I find the Japan he mentioned here? Obviously, it wasn't Japan at all. The lighting, the colors, the architecture, everything feels entirely Provençal. But here's what I discovered. Maybe imagination is more powerful than reality for artists. Van Gogh's imagined Japan inspired revolutionary art. Van Gogh once wrote to Gogh, "How I watched out to see if it was like Japan yet. Childish, isn't it?" Even he knew his search was somewhat naive. I think he was looking for a place where he could just calm down and focus on creation. The bright colors he couldn't see in Paris, the simplified way of seeing he learned from ukiyo-e prints. As someone from Japan who's lived in London for 8 years, I feel this in some ways. The light in London wasn't bright enough for me to get inspiration sometimes, the busy life juggling a full-time job and painting. I felt that same urgency Van Gogh probably felt. Sometimes, not seeing a place in person gives the imagination depth. The sense of longing is powerful. I felt it when I first moved to London, a city I had long dreamed of living in back in Japan. But that pure, delicate feeling never quite returns once you are used to a place. We can do a Google image search for any place on Earth now. Van Gogh had only imagination and a few wood block prints. Yet his Japan feels more alive, more urgent than anything I can find online. After 2 months in the south of France, I started to feel drawn back to Japan, to see the real Japan he might have wanted to visit, with my own eyes shaped by 8 years in London. Maybe that is what we search for when we travel, not new places, but new eyes. Van Gogh found the disciplines of looking he borrowed from Japanese art, and perhaps that's enough. That beautiful collision between our dreams and reality. Next, the last destination on my south of France trip, Aix-en-Provence. This is where Paul Cézanne was born and created his masterpieces, and I got to visualize my dream there. There are still so many places and experiences I want to share with you, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.